Hello, viewer, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And here on Hope TV, here on Spotlight, we always do our very best to bring to you stories and experiences and persons who are influencing our community in the direction of light. And we have been having a series brought to us courtesy of Bible Society of Kenya on trauma healing. Very insightful sessions, and thank you all for your feedback. Thank you for following this series of programs. And today we have a session on trauma healing, and specifically on how to support a person who's gone through rape. How do we support a person who's gone through rape? And we are happy again to be joined by two trauma facilitators. One is Reverend Jeremiah Kinyanjui, who has been with us here several episodes now, and we are happy to have you again. And we also, again, uniquely want to appreciate a new addition to this team of trauma healing facilitators. It's her first time, and her name is Wanja Ndongo. Now, Wanja Ndongo, welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you so much.
Now, the unique thing about Wanja Ndongo is that she herself has gone through a rape ordeal, and she'll be sharing with us about how it happened and the effect of that later on in this program. Again, do engage us on 22232. That's our text message line. And again, let's hear you on our social media platforms just telling us about what you think and what you feel about the thoughts and inspirations that are shared here in this episode of Spotlight. And it's just right for us to begin with you, Reverend Jeremiah. And because you encounter so many situations, and maybe you can just maybe describe for us what qualifies, or what does rape mean, or what's the definition, a description of rape?
I see. Thank you so much, Reverend. Again, it's a joy and a pleasure to be back here to continue creating awareness and letting our people know that indeed there is light at the end of the tunnel. And yes, there is hope and there is healing, despite the different traumatizing experiences that we have gone through. And yes, today we want to narrow down on how we can help someone who has gone through rape. You have asked me a good question on what is our understanding of rape. Indeed, many people can define rape in many, many ways. But the simplest way, I would say, how we can define rape is when a person forces themselves on someone sexually without their consent, without someone else's consent. That is the simplest way probably we can define rape. And apparently we are so familiar with the narrative that rape happens to women or to girls, which is, I would say, is very common. But did you know, Rev, and our viewers, that rape also happened to men and boys equally? And therefore tonight we are not only talking about the female gender, we're also talking about the male gender who have also gone through this painful, very painful ordeal. And in addition to that, rape can happen in many ways. Do I say maybe in different occasions, so to speak. And it's important for our viewers to understand that rape is rooted in the desire of someone wanting to have power over someone. I know many of us really would like to relate it to lust, or maybe to someone desiring for sex, but it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. Rape borders someone who wants to have power over someone else. Yes, Rev.
Okay. It's got a description there. And one of the things that sometimes sounds strange, Reverend, is to hear that rape also happens in marriage. Can you speak to that?
True. Remember how we have just defined rape. If there is no consent, two adults consenting that this is what we want to do. The moment there is sexual contact that lacks consent, then that qualifies to be rape, including in the confines of marriage. If the two partners, as much as they are married, husband and wife, but there is no consent, then that qualifies that to be rape. Yeah.
Okay. Very, very sensitive discussion,
Sure.
because we know that there are viewers who are watching us right now and they have gone through this ordeal. And our prayer is that as they participate in this program, that there will be healing for them. And that's why we also appreciate very much Wanja Ndungu for you being here, having gone through an ordeal of rape. And you'll tell us more about that in the second half. But maybe you can, for this instance, just tell us some of the effects that come to a person when they have gone through a rape experience.
Okay. Yeah, what I can say, Reverend, is that the major effect of going through rape, for starters, is guilt. You walk with a lot of guilt. You walk with a lot of shame. You walk with a lot of anger. You have too much bitterness, and you have bitterness towards, for a woman, you have bitterness towards men. And I know for men, they also have bitterness towards men because, they get raped by men. But there's that sense of low self-esteem. You don't look at yourself the same way anymore. You just feel like something ugly that is just walking on the streets of there, because you did not want it to happen, but it did happen. So to a very large extent, it really, really makes you walk in a lot of shame, in a lot of guilt, a lot of bitterness, a lot of anger. Yeah, a whole lot of things. And combined together, they just make you feel you don't even deserve to be in this world. And that's why a lot of people go through depression. They even commit suicide. I've known people who've committed suicide because of the same. I've also known people who have resulted, say, for example, women, because they were raped and they have so much anger towards men, they turn out to be lesbians. And we'll point fingers at them because, they have turned out, they don't want this gender because this gender had them. So they want to be with the gender that they are comfortable with. Men, the same way, they will turn out to be gay. I mean, because they were probably sodomized, because that's rape, basically. Yeah, so there are so many things. A lot of other people resort to masturbation because they would rather not be with anybody whatsoever. They would rather just satisfy themselves. And yeah, those are a lot of things that go on with rape.
Yeah, that's a lot.
A whole lot.
And
it's a whole lot. Yeah.
And to think that you yourself have, you have gone through it, and you're here to tell your story.
Yes.
I mean, that would be something that's very interesting and would want to hear more as we go on with this program.
Yes.
Now there is something about when one finds themselves or one reports that they have been raped, there is always a tendency to blame the victim, blame the victim.
Exactly.
And people would ask you maybe, where were you, why were you there, and how did you entice the person? And,
Exactly.
It's all
How are you dressed?
How are you dressed and all that. Maybe you can talk to that.
Yeah, that is also something that when I started opening up about going through rape, I know there's people who would ask me, like, why would you be going to the person's place in the first place? How are you dressed? And my question usually is, when a person rapes somebody like a child, a 3-year-old child, there is nothing in a 3-year-old child that can actually make you want to have sex with them. It is just a mental thing, that is in people's minds. So it is not how people dress, it's not how people act, it's none of that. I mean, a woman can walk naked. And a man who does not care about raping someone will have no interest. They will not even look at her twice. It is all here in the mind. And, it's something that, you will always wonder, why does someone want to rape someone? And that is something I was actually talking to him about, and he explained it very well. It's a mental issue. It's a mental issue. You rape someone because of the desire to have control. Even if you're raping a young boy, it's the desire to have control. Even if you're raping a little child, it's a desire to have control. Even if you're raping a woman, whatever age, it's the need to have control over them. Yeah, and it gives you, I guess, some level of satisfaction. I mean, you will never understand, but yeah.
You bring a very graphic image when you talk about, for instance, a child. And I'm sure that, Reverend, in the course of your time, you've also encountered children who've gone through rape. And just maybe you can describe the kind of trauma that such children go through.
True, Reverend. We have encountered such and helped them to come to terms with that kind of a painful, very painful experience. And what I have seen in a majority of children is, number one, the lack of words they can use to describe their experience. So most of them will adopt behaviors. For example, there are those who may refrain from eating, others may refrain from sleeping in a healthy way, and others will have nightmares. They will wake up screaming in the night and shaking, sweating. And there are those now who may resort to truancy. Especially if this experience is somehow connected with their going to school, or probably is connected with someone at school. There are those who may totally lose interest in going to school. And of course, that comes with the lack of concentration. You find that the performance, because obviously this child is at school. So another thing we observe is that the academic performance of this child get adversely affected. They start performing very poorly because of the obvious reason. They have lost interest, they have lost concentration. They are not there. And there are those who will withdraw totally. They withdraw, they don't want to talk. And we know it is the nature of children to want to go out and play. But these children, they kind of lose that. And they want to just be by themselves, and they don't want anything to do with people. And of course, that comes with a lot of crying. And it is until they are able to be helped by a competent individual who is able to take them through the healing process, because it is indeed a process, who is able to help them go through the healing process, help them, express their pain in a child-friendly manner. Like in trauma healing, we say drawing or art expression. They draw how they are feeling and what's going on in them. And then we also use questions like ask this child to compare themselves with something. And by and by, they get to open up. And you find that sometimes the perpetrators will threaten this child. They will tell this child, if you ever tell anyone about this, I will kill you. So the confidence is built over time to an extent that they no longer fear the perpetrator, and they are able to disclose and share exactly what they went through.
Yeah, and sometimes you just don't need any more evidence to tell you that there's evil in the world.
Sure.
That evil works in the world, because when you think about a rapist and a child, I mean, that's outright darkness. It's outright evil. And Wanja, you can tell us also, because of the dynamic of faith, right? Because you're there, you're a Christian, and this now happens to you. How did it affect your faith in God?
Okay. It actually did. I was born again at 13 years old. 13 years old, 3 months. I'll never forget, because my dad wrote it in my notebook. And I remember, going to high school, being so born again. I can say so born again because, at high school, when you're fasting for 7 days, that's really being born again. But then after that, joining Nairobi Pentecostal Church, this church, Nairobi Pentecostal Church. And then after that, having the rape happen. And seeing how many girls were kicked out of school because they came in pregnant. Seeing how many boys wanted to be with me, but I was so committed, to being a born-again Christian that I was not giving it a chance whatsoever. I was committed to the fact that, because my mom always said, any other sin is outside of the body, but the sin of fornication is with the body. So that is something that really stayed with me. So I felt my body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. So I would not ruin it for anything at all. So when the rape happened, and I knew how I was serving God, being in this Sitam church, for everything, missions and all that, I got to a point, I was like, okay, God, if you really cared, you would have saved me from that. But now that you don't, bye-bye. We'll see you. Yeah.
So you disconnected with
completely.
Faith and with God. And,
completely.
Wow. But
completely.
But here you are, the same church many years later.
I know.
And would want to definitely hear that story.
I know.
And we can also now talk about how to help someone who has been raped. Reverend.
That's a very important question. And I would say, to some extent, it forms the backbone of our conversation tonight. Because the reason why we are seated here, the reason why Bible Society of Kenya had to partner with the Hope Media, come to Spotlight, is that we can let people know out there that help is available. So over to your question, how can we help this person who has gone through this painful ordeal? And the first thing that our people need to be aware of, please seek for medical care. Seek for medical care. Because many things can happen when someone is raped. We know of the diseases that exist in the days of our lives. And again, we thank God for the medical technology, the advancement, to an extent that if someone has gone through rape and they are able to go to hospital immediately, I think before 72 hours, even if there were possibilities of a HIV infection, they are saved from that. They will not get infected because of the medical technology which is there at the moment, and we thank God for that. So all this, I'm saying that it is important for the person to seek for medical care, even if they are feeling okay after the experience. Maybe you're feeling maybe nothing much happened. Probably or what they can see, maybe it's a little blood and that's it. They are not feeling any pain or anything, but they need to go to the hospital. The next thing, which is very important, Reverend, and our viewers, is to seek for legal redress. Many people, I believe, are aware that rape is a crime in Kenya. The laws of Kenya are against it. And if anyone violates someone through rape, then the law comes after them. And therefore, it's important to report to the police, to report this. We have said first, medical care, medical attention. Then secondly, let's not just bury it, which is very common in our setting, our society. It happens every other day, but it is buried. But we are telling people today, please don't hide it. Don't protect the perpetrator. The person who raped, the one who violates, if you protect them, they will do it to someone else. And this is why it is important to report to the police. Then number 3, Rev, which is also very important. It's important for this person, after they have been taken care of at the hospital, they have reported to the authorities, let them look for someone who can listen to them. Someone who can help them debrief and even share their pain. Someone who can sit down with them, allow them to tell their story. You know, in trauma healing, we use 3 questions. What happened? How did it make you feel? What is the hardest part for you? They are given chance to share how they are feeling and where this experience has taken them. So that's what Wanja was talking about, the shame, the guilt, the feeling of doubt and feeling worthless, the feeling of loss of self-esteem, and the stigmatization and all that can be addressed at that point where they sit down with a competent trauma healer who will be able to help them come to terms and even experience healing. They go through the healing process after the experience.
And I'm just wondering about, because the ordeal is quite messy, and there's that process you've talked about. But Wanja, maybe you can reflect on your experience and tell us how long, in terms of years, did it take for you to say, now I feel better? I mean, in terms of years, because the process, the steps are clear. But how long did you see yourself take to reach a point where you can say, I feel maybe above this situation now or above the experience now?
Well, I would say it's a little complicated because it took me 15 years.
15 years.
15 years. And it took me 15 years because I ended up jobless, carless, homeless, in the streets and in rehab. And I remember this one lady who looked at me, and she had come to share her testimony, because you know how they have the rehabs, Christian rehabs in the US, where they just invite anybody who's gone through the experience. They just don't invite you because, you know, you have some degree of some sort. They want you to work with someone or listen to someone who has been through what you have been through. And so this one lady came in one day, and I remember it was my 7th day into the rehab, and she looked at me and she said, there's something that you need to heal. For the first time in 15 years, I remembered the rape. For the first time in 15 years. As in, I had blocked it. You know, some of these experiences, you block them. You don't want your mind to process what has happened. So you block it. And so everything else that you do, it's a manifestation of the pain, you know, and the loss, and the bitterness, and the shame, and the guilt, and everything. So you numb that. And your mind actually has a way of blocking it. And it's not until I got to a place where someone was like, there's something that you need to forgive. For the first time, I remembered the rape. And so I had to start now the process of, you know, forgiving and, you know, just going through the emotions and everything, and then eventually learning how to forgive this person, because I eventually did.
Yeah, 15 years is
15 years
is a long time.
It's
a long time, and that shows that the process is different for different people. As the journey of healing and coming to terms with your deal is different from different people. But we'll hear more about that in the second part of our program tonight.
But I also wanted to share something about sometime when I was sharing my story. There's a lady I met that was 70 years old, childless, was raped at 16 years old by a teacher. She got syphilis. She had her uterus removed. So at 70 years old, she still had not healed. So people can carry this thing even to their deathbed.
Wow.
If they don't talk about it or they don't talk about it.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. When you think
very
about
extremely.
it. And let's talk about the rapist. The rapist, because, I mean, can the rapist get help?
Sure. And that is very important for us not to leave out. Because of what we had said earlier on, that we would love to live in a society free of such painful experiences, traumatizing and heartbreaking. But it happens. And therefore, for it to stop, we need to address the people, the ones who perpetrate. And this is why, Rev, it's important for us to talk about the rapist, the one who violates, the perpetrator. And then how can we help them? Number one, they need to be helped to realize their mistake, to realize the pain that they have caused someone. And they need also to ask for forgiveness, first from God, then from the person whom they have violated. They really need to ask for forgiveness. And number three, the rapist need to face the consequences. Because the law has it that if one violates someone else in this way, then they have to face the consequences. And therefore, the perpetrator needs to face the consequences of their actions, of their behavior, even as they are helped as well to repent and also experience God's forgiveness for themselves.
Wow, it's difficult to put the rapist and God in the same sentence. And especially when you're not putting God as punishing, you're putting God there as forgiving. It's difficult. But viewer, we are talking about helping someone who has been raped, and we are talking to Reverend Jeremiah Kinyenjui. We are also talking to Wanja Ndongo, who herself has gone through a rape ordeal. And again, keep engaging us, keep sending your messages on 22232. Keep engaging us on the social media platforms. We want to hear what you have to say. And when we come back, we'll be hearing the story of Wanja Ndongo and how it happened and how she's traveled through it. To the level where she's sitting here, again now telling her story for your sake. Stay with us. This is Spotlight here on Hope TV. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Thousands of people throng cities every single day looking for opportunities to make their lives better. They are employees, business owners, or just opportunity seekers desiring to have a breakthrough in their lives. Join me, DM Tanki, as we take this journey from the perspective of different successful entrepreneurs and corporate employees on Occupy Today every Sunday from 8 p.m. exclusively on Hope TV. Look and live.
Coming up this September, CITAM Springboard Convention 2022 with fresh anointing to radiate God's glory as we reach out to the lost. Mark and save these dates from the 20th to the 24th September 2022 at CITAM Valley Road. The convention is themed Till the Whole World Hears and will definitely revive and uplift your faith. The Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 24 verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Get ready for the Springboard Convention 2022. You don't want to miss it.
Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content, of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.
Trees are important to us. They give us shade, they reduce the impact of stormwater runoff, they reduce the effects of drought.
The forest is facing quite a number of challenges.
Situated in the middle of a concrete jungle is Nairobi's largest indigenous urban forest.
It is the biggest indigenous forest within a city in Kenya.
We are getting people coming to do the illegal dumping in the forest.
We also have some opportunistic criminals who, once they commit crime, they run into the forest to hide.
Join us on Thursday, 4th August 2022 as we bring you special coverage on the plight of trees, Ngong Road Forest, only on Hope TV News Watch, where you look and live.
You know we can't forget them. And neither can you. Enjoy all-time classics every Thursday at 11 a.m.
Viewer, welcome back. This is Spotlight on Hope TV, where you look and live, and we are talking about helping someone who has been raped. And also on this edition, we have somebody here that is Wanjandongo, who actually has been raped and is sharing her experience, her reflections, her journey. And she's actually written a book about that, Through the Belly of the Whale. What a title. Through the Belly of the Whale by Wanjandongo, who herself is sharing her story here. And again, do engage us on 22232 and also our social media platforms just to hear your reflections as you listen to this story. Now, Wanja, you're here now and telling your story.
Yes.
And even written it down for the world to read.
Yes.
And I see it took 15 years for you to even maybe more, for you to get here. If you don't mind, you can maybe tell us what happened, how the rape happened. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I share very openly about how my rape happened. Because I was 22 years old, a virgin girl, and you know how we have groups of friends. So I had gone to visit one of my friends who had lost a father. Sometimes I like to say his name was Jeff. There is no offense. And so I went to see Jeff, and I was taking to him a card for sympathy, a sympathy card. I had no interest in him because as a born-again Christian, the last thing you want to think about is, going to have sex with a man. So at the moment when I went to his, the hostels, he was living at the hostels, and I was living right next high-rise estate at the time it was. I don't know what it is now. So I went to see him, and then he requested that I go in. I didn't think that you'd go into the men's hostel. So for me, it was a little strange, but then I didn't process that, not that quickly. Yeah, but then when I went into his, he told me to go into his room and everything, that is when the rape happened. And it happened in no less than a few minutes. I mean, something that my mind blocked. And then after that, I know he blocked my mouth, I was wearing trousers, I remember very well, and he took them down, and he raped me in no time. But I went back into my room. There was no conversation. We did not talk at all. And I just went back to my room, and I was staying with a cousin at the time. And I just shut myself down, and I cried and cried and cried for hours, address. And then with time, I started feeling funny emotions. Like I want to eat a samosa or something like that. And then that's when I was like, hold on a minute. You could be pregnant. And then I realized, obviously, I was a young girl who was getting her periods constantly. So I didn't get my period, so I realized I'm actually pregnant. So I talked to a friend of mine, because I was like, I can't tell my parents this. They're, church people, I cannot embarrass them. And I was like, no.
Just before you tell us what it is that you did when you realized that you were pregnant out of this rape, let's go back to the moment when you were raped and went away. What were you feeling? You cried, but what were your feelings?
I was numb. I remember even when I went and slept in the bed and cried, I was totally numb. And then it's something like I wanted to just block. Because, when you've never had sexual intimacy before, you don't even realize there was penetration. And I say this very openly. You don't even realize there's penetration. It's just that after, a month or so, I was like, okay, something must have happened. And that is when, I realized I could actually be pregnant. And eventually, I realized that I was. Because I went and got tested, and I was.
Yeah,
and so, and that is when I resorted to an abortion, because I was like, the church knows me to be a Christian girl. My parents know me to be a Christian girl. The whole school knows me to be a Christian girl. How am I going to tell them I'm pregnant? And it's not because I chose to do this. It's because someone did this, forcefully on me. Yeah, so that was a very painful time for me. And clearly I lost my soul completely.
You know, and it's sad how one unfortunate event or occurrence leads you to a series now of unfortunate decisions, starting with now, you know, the abortion. Were there other decisions that you made that after that you feel were directly caused by the rape ordeal?
The very first one is I know that I hated men. I wanted to use men. I wanted to sleep with every man that I saw. And I made that like a decision because I went into drinking and drinking very heavily.
You know, let's just stay with that again, because one would think that you would hate men, and now the flip side is happening, that now you want to sleep with every man.
Exactly.
Can you maybe...
Because it's like you want to abuse them. It's a feeling of you want to abuse them, but on the flip side, they ended up abusing me in the long run. And because of the alcohol, because I got heavily into alcohol, heavily. As in, it's not even where you go slow, social drinking, and then, no. I just went right deep into it because there was too much pain that I just needed to numb. And then this is pain that you're numbing that you do not want anybody to know.
Which is the other question, whether there were people you would talk to.
There's
about
only
what
one
happened.
person that I talked to, the one who took me to do the abortion. I never told anybody else about that. Never. Absolutely not. Yeah.
So here you are, you've been raped, and now you have had an abortion, and then you want to sleep with every man. Then you've got into heavy drinking. What was the feeling in your spirit at that particular time as you did all this, what you can call unfortunate decisions?
To be honest, it's like I honestly did not care. I didn't care. I didn't care if I died. I didn't care if I woke up the next day. I didn't care about anything. I just was in a numb state. And for a very, very long time. And thank God that he realized, you know what? This woman is going to die. For sure she will. And so there is a way that we were working with someone at some lawyer's office, and he went to the US and he decided that he wanted to get some papers for me to get into the US. And I said, you know, I don't care. I mean, I really didn't care. Whether I go to the US or I don't go to the US, I didn't care. Nothing mattered at the point in time.
Did you share this with your parents?
Nope. No. I didn't share about my rape with my mom until the 15 years. And I felt pain for her because I just understood how she felt like for all this time. I'll go back a little bit. So I left and then went to the US, and God opened for me a door to go to the US without any problems whatsoever. But the devil is a liar because he connected me to some people who were drinking very heavily. So I joined in quickly.
You're from Kenya, a drinking team. Now in the USA, you again get into a drinking team.
Yes, I got into a team, and we were working together, we were hanging out together. You know how Kenyans they do. And then obviously now I was at least able to go to school. I was at least able to even become a nurse. And but it caught up. It catches up. The drinking catches up. And then the pain, I mean, I remember that I would walk into a Kenyan club and they would all walk out. Because they knew if one just sees a man, she insults them. I used to call them all kinds of names because I just hated them. I just hated them passionately. I hated them. Yeah, so on the flip side, after that, I started getting abused now by the same, getting into obviously I wasn't married, but I was getting into domestic abuse, which was really, really, really bad. Physical, emotional, social, I mean, just call it. And then at some point, I got to a point where I even miscarried 4 children in a very, very, very abusive relationship. And so I got into the rehab, and that's where I was able to, kind of get myself back together. I was scared. Because you've been drinking for 15 years, you don't know how it feels to be sober. So I was really, really, really scared. And so when I got out, I stayed without a job. I don't have a car. I don't have a place to stay. And there was a relapse. And so it is like a process.
Yeah.
It's a process. Because this is a life that you're used to.
All right.
So getting out of it is usually like a
Difficult,
process.
yeah.
And then having to reflect, because it comes like, how can I call it? It's like a video in your head.
It's replayed.
You know, it's replaying, it's replaying like everything that you have done, in your dark state. So that was it was a very painful, yeah. But anyway, what I thank God for is that my being able to open up. My coming back to Kenya was a demand on my dad because he requested that I come back to Kenya. And he said there was no longer any blessing for me in the US. So I came back, and 2 years later, he passed on. So maybe God was speaking to him.
Also at that time. And I think that it's good for you maybe to tell our viewers, you went to the rehab, and out of there you began to kind of come to yourself. What would you say are your most significant helps that you found that started getting you, getting you to a place where you can say, now I'm on a healing journey? What are, if you remember what you can say, this was significant, this was significant, this was significant?
I can mention a few friends who stood with me and walked with me and prayed with me. And they didn't care. If I fell, they didn't care. And I'll mention one who is called Pastor Shiko. She's in Dallas. And she was very, very kind, and she still is up to today. And she still works with me and supports me. So I can say that I lost a lot of friends, basically, because all my friends were on the other side. So when I got back into church, I had to create new friendships. But I have realized that even after I've been back to Kenya, I have had very good support, especially the pastors in Sitam. And I'll mention like Pastor Ken Diongo. I can mention my Pastor Collins in Nyeri. So they have been very, very, very supportive. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And our viewers are interested in also knowing, at what point did you say, now I am on the other side of this experience? At what point did you discover, now I'm on the other side now. I'm not on the leeward side. Now I'm on the windward side. At what point?
It's at the point where after I had my 4 miscarriages, I took a bottle and I told God, if this bottle, it was a whole bottle, 750 mLs.
It's a bottle of
hard liquor.
Okay.
And I said, I'm going to finish this. If I'm still alive when I am done with this, then I'll know for a fact that you want me to be alive. If I die after this 750 mLs, then I'll know that you never needed me in this world. So that is when I went into It was 9 months. Prayer, fasting, and nothing else. Prayer and fasting, prayer and fasting. And that's what God gave me a vision. And the vision was helping women. And because very many women had rejected me, God gave me the name Sisters Workshop, where I started like the Sisters Workshop. I started that in Los Angeles. I did that in Dallas, in Houston, and I also did one in Phoenix. And after the 3, I knew that is where God wanted me. So he gave me a vision and a purpose to help women, because women, we bring each other down instead of lifting each other up. And it's because we don't care to understand why is this woman doing what she's doing. We are so quick to judge than, getting to know.
Yeah, and we would want you to tell us also how you forgave the rapist. But before you do that, I want to appreciate some of the viewers who are joining us and commenting about this conversation tonight. I want to appreciate Rachel Karari and also appreciate Joyce Gain. Also appreciate the Dekut office. That is, people are just watching that as well, and happy that God is faithful. He has healed you. Appreciate also Paris Wagura, who is saying, "Dear Sister Wanja, I am following this from Nyeri. Our God is faithful. He has healed you totally." We also have Miriam Dirango, who is saying, "Nice discussion and good to see you, my friend." And this is coming to also Reverend Jeremiah. So it's we appreciate your views and your comments and being part of this conversation. So thank you for keeping it here at Spotlight. Now tell us how you overcame or how you forgave your rapist.
When I was at the rehab, the lady that I have mentioned there, the moment she said there's something you need to forgive, I knew it was the rapist that I needed to forgive. Otherwise, I was going to get out of everything that I was going through if I was still going to hold him hostage. But it did not take 1 minute. It was a process. Like every time I would think about him, I'd be like, I wish I can find some people in Kenya who can actually kill him. Because I'm thinking, he's probably moving on with his life. He's probably doing this and that. And I was like, I wish I could just, Yeah, there was that. And then with time, as I prayed, as I learned about forgiveness, as I listened to, tapes on forgiveness and videos on forgiveness, I was like, it's time to release him. And how I knew I had forgiven him, one day I was driving from Nyeri to Nairobi, and our common friend, the same one who took me for the abortion, she tells me, I was at Samfino in Nyeri and I met our friend, Jeff, with his wife and kids. And we continued with the conversation, like with other things we were talking about. And when I got to where I was going and when I was remembering, oh, she talked about him. And I was like, I think I have really forgiven that guy, because I would have felt bad now that I've been told he has a wife and kids and I don't have any wife, a husband and children. So I would have thought that, oh, God, you're so unfaithful. But I didn't think about it. It didn't cross my mind.
Okay.
And that's how I knew. I think I have really forgiven. So I've not even tried to look for him or anything. I have forgiven and released him completely.
All right.
Wherever he is and however he is, and with his family. Yeah. And I have prayed for him constantly, even for blessings upon his life. Yeah.
You're quite a story and an experience. And Umasi could only have taken the hand of God for you to be where you are at. And now when you share your story, many people getting healing also from your story, that your story has now become not one of pain, but one of redemption.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
I know that even when I wrote the book, which was in 2011, 2013, I remember when I was revising it in 2013, I could not read it. And my publisher, he's called Pastor Boniface in Ohio. And he wanted me to correct things. And I was like, Pastor Boniface, I can't read this book. Because every time I went through it, I cried and I cried and I cried. But the day that I was able to read the book and finish it without crying, that's when I knew, oh, wow.
Okay.
I didn't think I would get here because I wrote it in the night. I used to write it at 4 a.m. in the morning when I would cry without anybody listening, you know. And yeah, it took a lot of tears to write the book, a lot of pain. But I knew I needed to do that.
Yeah, and it's now becoming a very helpful, your story.
Yes.
A story of pain is now becoming a story that is helping others progress,
Yes.
even in their ordeals. And to
Exactly.
see that what God has done for you, now it becomes a prayer for them.
Yes.
Do for me, you know, in my pain, what you've done for Wanja.
Exactly.
And just before we end the conversation, would you say that there are some things that in your life right now that you have not achieved, and you relate them directly to the Repo deal?
Absolutely. Number one, I'll be 50 years in December. I am still single, no child, no husband. I knew this would not have been the issue if that had not happened. But on the flip side, I thank God that there are some souls that have been saved because of my life story. And probably if I remained the same person, I mean, God has to trust you with some level of pain for you to be able to change other people's lives. And I believe that God knew that I was capable of handling this, because between 2008 and 2016, I lost 14 friends to alcohol and drugs. And I knew that there is a reason why God spared my life, that I did not lose my life in that period of time and in those so many years, because I would have, but I didn't.
All right.
Yeah. And so my life is purpose-driven. And I know there are some things that I don't have that I would love to have, but I also know that there are some lives that are still living today because I'm alive.
And even tonight, as you tell this story,
Yes.
There's so many people who are watching
Yes.
that are being healed and
Yes.
inspired by this story.
Exactly.
So, as you say, you could have lost a number of things, but you've also gained a lot
Yes.
in the process.
Yes.
And keep telling your story. Keep
I
telling
will.
your story.
Absolutely.
And we really appreciate also the Bible Society of Kenya for bringing us, you know, bringing to us you, and you can share your story with our viewers, and lots of positive feedback coming about this story. So the healing of others continues.
Yeah.
And we will continue with this program next week as well. And we just want to ask Reverend to just tell us about what we'll be talking about in the next program.
Great. So the journey continues, and we are so glad that our viewers have continued to follow us. And we believe that indeed light, they are witnessing light in their own lives. And therefore, next Wednesday, we will still be here, and we will be talking about domestic abuse. And a very interesting, topic, because it is confused with domestic violence. But next week we will be looking at it in broad terms and see, so what's the difference and why should we address issues to do with domestic abuse?
All right.
Yeah.
Again, another insightful session that we look forward to. And Wanja, really, really thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being open
Thank
and
you.
sharing your story for the sake of the healing of others.
Amen.
Viewer, also, thank you for being part of this Spotlight edition, and thank you for your participation. And just again, we see that there's no wound that God is not able to heal. So whatever pain that you feel, in addition to all the support that you have to seek to find to find healing, just have it on the front of your mind that there's no wound too deep for God to heal. This has been Spotlight. Thank you for watching.